Hi, Mina. How are you today?
Good. Hi, Michael.
It's so good to see you, and I'm so glad that you could join me today.
It's always good to see you, even though I saw you like 2 days ago.
Yeah, we see each other quite often now.
We're
Um,
connected.
yes, we're connected. So, do you want to just give a brief explanation of who you are for the listeners and the viewers and tell us what you're up to?
Sure. I am a lot of things. First off, I'm a mom to two exceptional teens. I am a product stylist for a fashion uh, luxury retailer. I'm a practical aesthete, and that is one who seeks and creates beauty in their everyday life. And lastly, I would describe myself as an unintentional nonconformist. After about 19 years of living in the burbs, I returned to New York City during a pandemic, no less.
Oh my God, wow. It's like full circle, and now you're back in New York City during another pandemic.
Exactly. I mean, I left right after 9/11, and here I am during coronavirus. So, but it's
Wow.
always good to be back. It's home.
Yes. And how was that? How was that transition coming back to New York?
Honestly, I am pretty adaptable and flexible that it really didn't take long. It was more like, just finding my places in my hood, just like my tailor, my, dry cleaner, the place I'm going to get my groceries but for the most part, the energy of the city, just the visual range is just so a reflection of me, and it's always been a part of me.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So you were living in New Jersey before. Do you want to touch on that, like what your story was before moving back? Because you just moved back a week or two ago.
About 2 weeks ago. So basically, my family life was in a wonderful suburb in New Jersey, and my teens are still there. I'm here more full time. I'm with my love of my life, second husband to be, and basically just having a modern family. I was with the kids full time and their father would just come in on weekends, and we nested where the kids never moved. So they were, their home life was very stable. But with the pandemic and, just kind of uncertainty of things, all the adults in my children's life decided that let's just consolidate. Let's just have two homes, one for the kids and their dad. And since I had already been back and forth to New York, that, I would just stay here. And then the kids would visit, and I would visit often.
Before you moved back to the city, you were living in New Jersey, but you were in New York right before that. So what was the transition like from moving from New York City to New Jersey before?
Oh boy, that was one of the biggest, just big turning points in my life because, I was, when I came to New York, I was 21. By 23, I was married and I was headed to grad school at NYU for journalism. I had just switched careers, so I was on Wall Street, believe it or not, and I wanted to be more creative. And so I focused on writing about design, which is a huge, huge part of my life. And yeah, so I had this quintessential New York life living in the West Village, and then 9/11 happened, and my then husband just had enough of the city and got a job in New Jersey, and of course I followed. But it took like 2 years for me to adjust because having grown up in the suburbs in upstate New York, that was all good and fine as a child, but that was not what I was going to pursue as a young adult. So I'm like, I'm going backwards. But then we found this beautiful, beautiful place called Montclair, New Jersey. And it was just the best place to just raise children. But I always considered it the perfect place for my family, which included me, of course. But if you take myself out of the equation, it was always the city. That was my home.
And we both grew up in the same like 2 towns over from each other pretty much.
Across the Susquehanna River.
Yes, in good old upstate New York, Binghamton.
Yep.
So did you always know that you wanted to move to New York or the New Jersey area or a big city in general? Like how important to you was that?
For most of my childhood, no. I embraced the space. I was very active. I skied, I hiked, I biked. I really appreciated the nature that surrounded us. But it wasn't until I was a restless teen that I felt like, I'm going to need some more cultural stimulation. And, I felt like I was outgrowing my surroundings, but obviously I still needed to graduate high school. So it wasn't until I was in undergrad, still in upstate New York, I did an internship on Wall Street one summer. And that just ignited my passion and love for New York. And I felt like this is the place I'm going to grow as an adult in. And, it matched my energy visually, gastronomically, artistically. It just really felt like it would fulfill all my interests.
Yeah, I feel like I have a very similar story too, because I grew up, like I said, we were just across the Susquehanna River, and yeah, I just felt like that small town was just not for me. Like it was great, for like a family. It felt very close knit. So that was nice as far as like family life and stuff and having a lot of family members close by. But I always just knew that there was something calling me to something more like you said, more diverse. Like I always craved more creativity, more diversity. And I always had my eyes on New York City just because I love the East Coast and the Northeast. And yeah, once I had an internship here also one summer. And that was when I knew I was like, all right, this is where I'm destined to be in the foreseeable future anyway. So how important is having like an ideal career or like a perfect career to you in life? Is career something that's even extremely important to you, or how do you navigate that?
I guess not really, because based on my own experiences, I wasn't one of those people that, just came out of college at, 21 or 22, landed their first job of their dreams and then continued on like 30 years later in the same place, doing the same thing. I have a lot of interests. A lot of them are creative. And, I've been in publishing, pursuing, I was at one point trying to be a literary agent. I was a fashion writer and copywriter. I was a freelance design writer that focused on architecture and interior design. I was on Wall Street, as I mentioned before, and now I do product styling in fashion. So I felt like for me, and of course, my largest career that never goes away is motherhood.
Yes.
I really, I admire women because there's no wrong or right path who could just hold on to their career and juggle motherhood. I couldn't. I felt, honestly, too guilty, but I really knew I just had more fun focusing on the kids. So I would, try my hand at something and then I would come back. And then finally, when I felt like it was the right time for the kids and I, but probably mostly me, I really just kind of went for it. But with each job I've had, I've really enjoyed an aspect or more of it. And the best part was the people I was meeting. I really connected every single place I went with a bunch of special people. So but it wasn't a linear path, career path. But somehow it's connected because it's me.
Yeah, I think that's really important, you talking about how your path wasn't very linear, because I feel like a lot of people have this perception that things need to go a certain way. You need to do X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. You need to go on a specific path. But sometimes in life, always in life, there's going to be things that come up. There's going to be bumps in the road, obstacles. But sometimes that windy path is what leads you ultimately to what you want to be doing or to where you want to be.
Absolutely. Like, they're all connected because the common factor is you. And, you can't look at what you're doing from an outside perspective. Like, how does it look to somebody else? You have to, what matters is how you feel about it. Do you feel good about this? Is this something you feel like pursuing at this time? And sometimes you can't look like way into the future and think, should I be doing this? Do I want to be doing this like 30 years from now? It's like sometimes it's what you're doing is perfect for a certain time and place. And then you can really be present for that and be open to whatever's next afterwards.
From an outside perspective, I mean, for me looking at you, it seems like you juggle everything very well and you have a lot of balance. So what role does balance really play in your life?
Well, when it came to the, looking at my life from, picking motherhood versus career, I would always pick the kids. Not to say that any woman who chooses, career is like giving up. You're always like balancing. But I think in my mind, theoretically, I felt like I couldn't balance it, but ultimately I did. I just feel like it starts with being really organized and understanding that you can't do everything at once. You can't possibly do that. And so you have to prioritize. When I was in journalism school, I had an amazing professor who wrote a book. And I may fudge it up a little bit, but I believe it was Women Can Have It All, but Not at the Same Time. And I have always thought about that. For me, when I did go back to work, I focused on work when I was working and then my children when I was home. And me being a very social person, I realized that a little bit of my social life would have to take a back seat. And I was okay with that because I didn't have the time or energy to fit everything in. But when I did get together with friends, I was so grateful. It was, I was very present, and I decided that this is choosing quality over quantity. And so that's how I could have it all.
So you briefly touched on your love for design and having a balanced home life and space. How important is having your home setting or even a work setting? How much does setting play a role? And how much does that carry over into your life in terms of your relationship with others or having balance?
It's huge. So basically, I'm very visually sensitive. And even as a little girl, I would have insomnia some nights, and I would rearrange my room, and I would edit down things. I was very much into stuffed animals and was given a lot of them as gifts. And periodically, I would just line them up, and I would put aside the ones that I did not find aesthetically pleasing or I felt that were of low quality. And I would just kind of pile them up and say, "Here, Mom, please donate them. They're just not for me." And that practice hasn't changed. And so I really am a firm believer in form and function in items and things. And I have to really, really find something beautiful to me, but it also has to work hard. And funny thing, my kids are the same way. I've kind of unintentionally raised them that way, that they don't like excess, they don't like clutter, they don't want meaningless things around them, they just want quality. And so basically that helps clear my mind. So, when you do away with physical clutter and you arrange what's left in a aesthetically pleasing manner, it just feels good. You just feel really good and unhindered, and just it's like, it sounds strange, but I feel like it brings out like who you are as your character. You're not distracted by things. And I've met a lot of people who are like-minded and not, or who want to be more minimal in that way. You really connect because it's just pure, and you're stripped down and the other person's stripped down. Does
Yes.
that make sense?
Of course. Do you think there's something in editing your life as far as the people you allow into your life? The quality over quantity as far as friendships and just good relationships and having positive people around you.
Absolutely. I think that practice with the stuffed animals has carried over to people. So, having that kind of standard for something as simple as, your belongings does translate to people. That you want people that surround you to make you feel good, to support you, to see you as who you are, and hopefully you're doing the same thing with them. And so you just know when that's right. It's not hard. And you go through life meeting a lot of people, and there are people that you don't feel that with, but maybe you have to be near them. And you just kind of, for me, you accept that they're of a certain time and place. I love using that word. And a function. And you enjoy them for their, what they can give you, if that makes any sense. And you don't try to extract any more from them. And yeah, and you just kind of, I shouldn't say like you create a barrier, but you kind of, because it sounds kind of mean, but I mean, you create a barrier in order to save yourself for the people who really like you're deep with, who you're vulnerable with, and just really connect with. That there is kind of a pecking order. There is editing involved in relationships. And a lot of times those connections pass. And that's okay. I don't try to bring that into my present or my future if it's not all there. And when you do that, I feel like that opens you up to the new people that are supposed to enter your present life and your future. And then I have to say, it's not that I constantly upgrade. There are people I have known since I was in, preschool. And, and there are certain special people, even from childhood, that no matter where you are in life, you just pick up where you left off when you do see one another. And that is just an amazing, recognition of one another's being, souls. And that's what I protect myself from the outside and all the noise for those moments to connect with those people.
Yeah, and I feel like your energy and your time is so precious as a person because you only have, as far as we know, we only have one life that we're living, So I feel like kind of weeding out those people, I feel like that's kind of a harsh term, weeding out people in your life. But just recognizing certain moments and certain people and kind of like you said, what they're meant for in that time, or maybe they're even teaching a lesson. Do you think that you learn things from certain people, even if there's someone that you don't feel might be a part of your life in the long term?
Absolutely. I think a lot of things, we react to people around us, and even the ones that don't agree with us. And we have to kind of look at ourselves. Why am I reacting this way? Why is this person, delighting me, or why is this person getting underneath my skin? So I think when you focus on yourself and it's about you, then it's all like this one big beautiful story, which does have its bumps, but it gets you just closer to who you are, understanding who you are. Something that I've mentioned to you, and I always tell my kids that I live my life as if I am the star of my own low-budget B movie.
And we're both the star of our own low-budget B movie.
And it's our life. I mean, so many interests. I'm just so open and aware of the interesting things that happen to me, and the people I meet and the experiences I experience. And it's done with a lot of openness and a lot of humor, even when things don't go very smoothly, because I feel like, as you said, we have one life. It's short, relatively short, and might as well just be entertained. And that's just kind of why I try not to take, a lot of, if there's negative energy around me, so seriously, because I have the power to just edit that out of my movie.
Ooh, I like that.
Thank
The
you.
director's cut.
Exactly.
I think that's an important point because I think it's hard for some people to separate themselves from negativity or to bring positivity into their life. Because I think sometimes for some people, they're attracted to negativity and they're attracted to the drama. And it's almost this addicting thing because, you're creating some sort of rush, even if it's negative or positive. And I think people unintentionally sometimes feed on that and they bring that into their lives.
Yes, we've seen that. I think part of, it's obviously a physical practice, but a mental practice when I edit things because it's a balance. You're on one hand attached to this item and you're also detached. And you have to ask yourself, is this worth it? Do I want this here? Does it mingle with the other things, objects I love? Is it useful? And when you have that mindset and you apply it to situations, people, I find it's easy to actually step away from the negativity. Not to say that I'm always positive or always happy, but it's just kind of like ingrained in me. It's my thought process, as I move through life. So I guess in that way, it gives me that edge to be able to have perspective and to step back and to assess a situation like, oh, damn, I don't want to be a part of that.
Yes. It's good to know when to assert yourself and to remove yourself from certain situations. What is your viewpoint on doing things that benefit you in order to advance yourself to the next stage of life or the next chapter? Because I know some people might look at certain decisions or moves selfishly in life for things that you do for yourself in order to make your life, your one life that you're living, your B-roll movie or B-list movie, yours. So yeah, what is your viewpoint on doing things for you that's strictly benefit you sometimes?
I have never had a problem doing things for me. Being a Cancer, I am definitely such a nurturer to those that I love and those around me. Can't help but, wanting people to have the best, to be, just entertained and comfortable. That's just my nature. But at the same time, I am a Leo rising and very, very, very protective of numero uno right here. And so I need it. I mean, I've always napped. Even as a little girl, when my children were babies, I would nap when they would nap. And even as an adult, I feel like it's my time to just take a break from the world because I'm so in it. When I'm in it, I am really focused, really present. I give my all. That I just need to just recharge. I do practice a lot of self-care. I kind of just, luxuriate and pampering treatments, retail therapy, all that good stuff. But I don't really feel guilty. I don't, because in order for me to give as well as I do, I need to be good to myself. So I always had this mantra that I don't regret things that I do, but I do have to learn a lesson from it. And I have to forgive myself. Because I know people who are just guilt-ridden. And, frankly, after a while, it's kind of annoying. Because we all can fall into that trap, but it's just like, okay, the milk is spilt. What are you going to do? Complain about it constantly? Just wipe it up and just don't, think about why that happened and try not to recreate that disaster. And I feel like that's how you move on, and you can open yourself to more disasters. But as long as you're not making the same ones, then I feel like it's okay over and over. That that just means you're living. And yeah, so I really live I try to be very fluid and light. And, the more I am that way with myself, the more giving I can be to those around me. So I feel like there's a correlation.
Have you always had that flowy personality where you can kind of just let things slide and take a step back and look at the bigger picture, or has that been like a slow, steady learning process?
I've always had that element as a little girl. It was kind of freaky, actually, to have that inner conversation at such a young age and to be so self-aware. Was I always that calm? No. I mean, I'm sure I had some like crazy tantrums as a child because, there's a part of me that was a perfectionist, still is, but it's more tempered now and realistic, that I would get really pissed off when things didn't go my way. Obviously now at this point, I'm just like, oh, well, you know what? I did what I could. It wasn't meant to be. That really sucks, but I'm going to move on. So I hope that answers your question.
It doesn't. No, just kidding. Yes, that's great. What would you say brings you the most joy in life?
Wow, there's a lot. Definitely love. I have a lot of love in my life. I'm grateful for, of course, my children who, just because they're my children, I love them, but I really, really like who they are as human beings. They're so cool. Obviously, close friends, family who just get me. They just let me just be me and are so supportive and loving. And then, of course, my, John
Yes.
is just my partner in life and crime. Just, he's the best. And then I have cats. And I don't consider myself a cat lady. I'm not a pet person. But just to match my children, they're exceptional cats. They are extremely well-behaved, affectionate. They're just bizarre. They're not like normal pets.
Little creatures.
Little creatures. And I love my next meal. I think about food, cravings, how to pair things together, wine, of course, and good design. I mean, nothing makes me happier than seeing something that is just well made and beautiful. I mean, I'm not talking about things that are expensive or have a high price point. I mean, it could be something like simple. It could be like a twig that's just so aesthetically pleasing.
It's bent in the right direction.
Exactly. So, yeah, those are my main sources of joy, but I find it everywhere.
Do you think that the current generation, the next generation to come up, is one that's a little bit more politically inclined and involved in things that are going on and things that are necessary and having those conversations?
I do. I always believe in hope. And specifically for my children's generation, I feel like they are more politically, socially open, that things that we have grown up and unfortunately, taken for granted. They're like, this is bullshit. Why are we dealing with it? It's black and white, these issues, which they should be. That they won't take anything less than what should be for an answer. What is right? What is wrong? And I think that's incredible. I think they're just, with their growing up with social media, I think that, it brings that awareness to their attention probably much sooner than it did for us. But at the same time, I do worry that while in their head there's a lot of, activity and a lot of awareness and a lot of maturity to a certain point, that experientially they're not as mature as my generation. That, I was figuring things out at a much earlier age. I may not have known as much about the world, but I knew who I was, and I was experiencing things that were cementing, the person I was going to be. Because it's not like I had the internet or a cell phone. I was doing things. I was connecting with people. And, my parents weren't always checking up on me.
So what's your viewpoint on social media then? Do you think it's a powerful tool, or do you think it's something that's negative, or both?
I think it's both. I think, with a lot of things in life and people and experiences, for the most part, there are exceptions. It's a dual edge. It's good and bad. It all depends on how the person just receives it. I believe in balance. I feel like social media for me is not a problem. I edit that pretty well, my intake and what I want to see and how often I want to participate in it. I don't really like, I know a lot of people can go down the rabbit hole. I rarely do that. And I feel like that is a danger for young people. And again, instead of experiencing those things that they're seeing and maybe being envious of, they're watching someone else do it. And that's very, very sad to me, because I'm a big believer in just experiencing life, your own movie. I mean, you don't have to be doing something, on a large scale to feel like a rich person. And I think seeing, certain influencers for young people do things and having certain things can be a bummer for them. But, you have to remember that is not really real. I mean, they're doing it for the audience. And they're working very hard, like it's their job to appear a certain way. And as long as, young people remember that, I think they're fine, and that they're living their own lives for themselves, off camera, offline, then they're going to be great.
So I want to ask you a question about, what are some things that you do to tune out the noise and the negativity and all the mumble jumble of daily life?
It's I try every morning to recite a Hebrew prayer. I'm Jewish, and it's almost like meditating when you say it in Hebrew, and it's basically being grateful about having another, day or chance at life. And so it kind of, sets me on the right path. I'm a big believer in breakfast, not skipping that. That's from my, very traditional and consistent upstate New York upbringing. And, I make my kids have breakfast. Even if they're not hungry, you need some kind of fuel, I believe, in physically, so that you can mentally operate. So I have those things going on. If I can squeeze in a cat nap, I will. And just to really just enjoy life and just to embrace it. I mean, sometimes I'm pretty positive. I have a strong personality. I can power through things, but sometimes I do succumb to being, sad, moody, or just pissy. And I allow myself to just be that way.
Feel those emotions.
Yeah, but then I tell myself, okay, that's enough. So
snap out of it.
Yes, as if I were another person. So that ability to step outside myself and see myself that way helps. I can just kind of give myself a quick backhand. So I want to feel it all, but I don't like to linger on negativity. But I think it's healthy and important to feel it, to recognize it, but then move on.
I really want to thank you so much for being a part of the episode. And I really think you have this just shining light that radiates. And people, whenever you meet them, when I see you meet new people, it's always this instant connection I feel like you have with people. And I think the listeners and the viewers are really going to connect with that and see that shine through with you. So I just want to thank you for sharing your story and sharing insights into your own life and being a part of the episode.
Thanks, Michael. Love you.
Love you.